Comrade Jan, let's discuss the comprehensive social security. Now, we know that COSATU has been championing the campaign against the amortization of provident and retirement funds in favor of a comprehensive social security plan. Can you briefly explain what precisely you are referring to when you talk of comprehensive social security?
Thank you very much, Comrade Mtami. What we are referring to about comprehensive social security, we are referring to a system that is comprehensive. Let's start there. What will this system entail? One, if we look at students, for example, there was a student movement last year, they were talking about fees must fall. Now we're looking at free education so that those students can then graduate and then get into a labor market and work. Once they start working, there are COSATU affiliates, they join unions. They will then have to be provided with the following. One is a retirement fund system, and I must stress this, a retirement fund system for retirement. In other words, they will belong to retirement funds that will be meant for nobody else but themselves at retirement age. That's the first thing. Secondly, what happened then if, because some sectors are entrenching, if they lose their jobs? It means we'll have to restructure UIF in such a way that, because for now UIF pays benefits up to 12 months. But it must create a UIF or unemployed insurance that will make sure that between a worker loses his or her job up to retirement, there's a base, a benefit that the member will then get. So that when you come back to the issue raised, which is very important, annuitization and preservation, you are able to sustain that argument. Because you can't say, if COSATU entrench me tomorrow, and I'm left with some years to retire, then I don't get employed until at my retirement age, then you say, no, but you must preserve your benefits because they are meant for your retirement. That's one aspect. The second aspect is there's a fragmentation in the social security space. You have compensation fund there, you have something for mine workers there, you have UIF on the other hand. So you have social security provisions all over. We're saying they must be put together. Under one umbrella. And the government paper then proposes a national social security, which means put them together, probably not at the same contribution rate, at a lower rate, because one, you will enjoy huge benefits of economies of scale, because we'll have a lot of workers in a fund, therefore your contribution will be less, but you then provide some benefits. For example, for unemployment insurance, when a worker gets injured at work, and all of those things. But the most important one is, there are people who are earning below poverty wage. One, they can't contribute for retirement. What do we do about them? The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Section 27, and this is very important for COSATU, because there are people out there who are making a lot of halabalo, maybe halabalo is the wrong word, who are making a lot of noises about certain sections of the Constitution. They are not quoting all the constitutions. This particular section talks about, among others, provision of a social security system for the poor. Now I'm wondering why those who are making halabalo or a lot of noise about the Constitution are not making a constitution about this clause. This matter, therefore, is a constitutional matter. For those who are unable to look after themselves, the Constitution says the state must provide, of course, within the limitations of the means to do that. But means, obviously, to me, means there will have to be a political will to do these things. In the absence of a political will, then you'll just say state cannot, afford this and that. Therefore, the base is that you'll have to have a universal pillar that covers everybody, so that no one then goes to bed on an empty stomach in the Republic of South Africa when we have resources and we are able to take care of our people. That's and I'm explaining something that I can explain for the whole day in a few seconds, but basically it says we'll have to have a cover that covers everybody up to retirement age. Finally, that's why we said as COSATU, we cannot discuss annuitization nor preservation outside the discussion paper, because we'll have to have a system that is comprehensive from cradle to retirement. There's one good paper which was written by the Department of Social Department on those issues. But I'll come back then later in terms of, do we have challenges? What are these challenges? How are we going to make sure that this thing is happening, etc.? And where is the leadership supposed to provide leadership, so that as we have called for the paper, we then respond to the paper. We don't call for the paper's presented, then we kick another door because we want to get to the next door, as opposed to taking the opportunity and say, in our lifetime, this is what COSATU demanded, and this is the product that we were part of as COSATU.
A little bit on how it will work, because you're saying it will cover everybody. By everybody, are we talking about students, or are we talking about people who are starting in the workplace environment, workers, from young workers up until retirement age? And then again, when you speak of the contribution of lesser, are you saying that there'll be one amount that is deducted? Because currently there's an amount that is deducted for UIF, for Provident Fund, and all of these things. Does that mean now, under the comprehensive social security, there'll only be one deduction, an amount that is made that will cover all of these areas?
Thank you very much. Yes, in terms of contributions, there's going to be one contribution for unemployed insurance, for compensation fund, for basically your social security system. But also the state is going to play a role, because the state also is going to contribute. That's the first thing. The proposal from government paper, and I think I must be very fair. The government paper calls for one fund where moving forward we'll have to contribute into, and it's going to be called the National Social Security Fund. There are challenges, but I'll come back to the challenges. What does it mean? You have a system in South Africa where you have one fund with 1.4 million members on the extremes. It's a big fund, well run, and it's okay. There are challenges in the system like any other fund. On the other, you have another fund with 50 members. Now, the cost of running these two funds are vastly different. It's very expensive to run the small fund, cheaper to run the big fund. We have called as COSATU, I think 10, 15 years ago, to address the fragmentation in the retirement funds. Because these funds at that stage, I think 15 years ago, there were about 14,000 funds in South Africa. Today, there's about 3,000 funds. Some of them were integrated. Unfortunately, they were not integrated into our own funds. What happened is that, which is a debate for another day, they were integrated by insurance companies into their own funds. We'll come back to that later. But in this case, we want these funds to be integrated so that we minimize challenges of governance issues. We address issues of trustees who will understand retirement funds and act in the best interest of members. We put resources in training those trustees. We make sure, therefore, that you put in trustees who understand these complex matters and act in the best interest of members. But we need to do that by not removing a very fundamental aspect of this issue, which is democratization of retirement funds. Remember, by law, workers, members are allowed to elect their own representatives. Yes. We must make sure that in doing whatever we do, that element should always be there. But we'll have to guard against making sure that there are strong, proper governance structures so that then workers are not taken for a ride about their savings. And in this case, retirement funds are the only savings for working people.